stick you over here. Now, I've been wanting to teach I have no hair. You know what I'm talking about. The problem with beans. They make you go poop. I've been wanting to teach a lesson on beans for quite some time. I have recorded quite a few of them, and weird stuff keeps happening. Cameras stop working, microphones stop working, people come and go. I suddenly don't have an ingredient that I knew I had. I bought from the store. It gets very frustrating. Very. So, what I have decided to do instead is, since the bean dish that I was going to make just wouldn't work, no matter, and I recorded the same exact lesson twice, I'm going to change gears. We're going to make a classic bean salad to go with our grilled chicken. Now, a lot of people hear bean salad and they think to themselves, that sounds disgusting. I'm not going to eat that, you gross, gross man. You're missing out. You're missing out, my friend. Bean salad, if it's made well, has just tons and tons of flavor. But nutritional experts say we're supposed to eat 3 servings of bean a week. I don't. You might. Beans are amazing. They are part of the legume family. When I was in culinary school, they told me that a bean is a legume, and that's not quite right. A legume is a plant that produces beans or peas. Peanuts are a legume. The thing that we're eating is actually called the pulse. And there's a bunch of different varieties of beans. The most classic way that people prep their beans is by soaking them. The easiest way to get these beans ready to cook is to soak them in cold water overnight. Some people will bring them up to a boil in water, then take them off the heat, put on the lid, and soak them for 8 hours. The problem is that then the beans tend to split and burst. The skin will burst. I don't want to do that. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add, in fact, I'll do it the opposite way, because I don't need this water for anything else. A rule of thumb is about 4 times as much water as you have beans. We're going to let them sit in there. We're going to add a little bit of salt. And the purpose of the salt is to make the skin more permeable. That is 1.5 tablespoons. A 1.5 tablespoons of salt. We're going to let this, I'm going to stir it with this. I didn't bring anything to stir with. That works. That works. We're going to let this soak overnight, and they'll be ready to cook tomorrow. The recipe that we're going to use for our bean salad. And remember, lots and lots of protein in beans. So this is going to be a very, very healthy meal. We're going to have the grilled chicken drumsticks, no preservatives, all fresh flavors, all fresh ingredients. And we're going to serve it with spiced Mexican-style bean salad. What's going to make it Mexican is going to be the addition of cilantro, lime, and some ancho chili. But before, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. The reason beans are so healthy for us is that they are an amazing source of protein. The protein is combined with a bunch of complex carbohydrates for lots of energy. Problem that a lot of people have with beans. And let's not, you know what I'm talking about. The problem with beans, they make you go poop. And the reason is is beans contain a specific type of sugar called an oligosaccharide, and our bodies don't naturally have the enzyme that will break down that sugar. So the oligosaccharide, we eat it, it goes into our gut, and we don't have any enzymes to digest it. However, the natural bacteria that is in your gut does. It loves it. It eats that crap up. So, when you're farting after eating too many beans, it's not actually you. It's bacteria. True story. A red, a yellow, and an orange bell pepper. I'm not going to use the orange bell pepper for this. We'll use that for something else. But we are going to hold on to the red and the yellow. We have a poblano pepper, which is got to add a little bit of heat, a little bit of mild heat. Then we're going to add some seeded jalapenos. Now, whenever you're working with these kinds of things, you want to make absolutely 100% sure that you wash your hands before and afterwards. Of course, before, but definitely afterwards. The capsaicin, which is inside of these peppers, it lingers on your hands and it will burn sensitive tissue. To seed your jalapenos, just trim off the very, very top. Then what we're going to do is we're going to cut these guys in half. Now, there's two ways you can seed them. You can use a spoon and just kind of scrape it down. You can also use the flat of your blade. I'm going to use that. Let me stop. Let me pause here for a second. Just as a quick reminder, when you are chopping an onion, the easiest way to do that is to trim off a very, very little bit from the stem end and from the root end. You'll know the root end because it's got the little roots coming down. So trim off the root end and the stem end. So you'll end up with something like this. That'll give you a nice flat surface to chop it in half with. We're gonna pull off the outer skin. Isn't that beautiful? That's just pretty right there. Red onions, also known as Spanish onions. Fun fact. In order to dice this, we're going to make some horizontal cuts first. With an onion this big, it's getting 3 horizontals. Then we're going to go and we're going to switch and we're going to do some vertical slices. We're going to go all the way down to the root, but not go through the root. The root's still holding it together. Then we turn it back so that it's facing us, and we go straight down. And you get all those nice, perfect little, well, they're almost brunoise. Not quite, but almost. Now what I do is I'll take my onion and toss it into the pot before I finish with the root end, because sometimes the root end's a little tricky. And it requires more chopping, you know, going back over and over the same spot. Almost like you were mincing parsley. There we go. All right, in goes my onion. Wipe off my cutting board. Now you have a couple options now. You can put in frozen corn. I am not putting in frozen corn because I think that's disgusting. It's not, pardon me, it's not disgusting. It's just corn, corn's in season right now. I'm gonna use fresh, thank you. I'm gonna put in 2 full kernel, ears. 2 full ears of fresh corn. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice them right off. Am I going to cook them? No, I'm not. I'm not. That is just good eating right there. Now, granted, if you wanted to grill this baby and then put it into your bean salad, that would be delicious too. We could do that. But I kind of want the flavors to all meld together. Oh, that corn silk, those tiny fine little hairs. If you shuck it well, you're not going to have any trouble. You'll have a couple little ones, but they're not going to hurt you. Okay. Now I got to be careful with this knife because it's so sharp. It'll cut right through the corn cob, and I'll have hunks of corn cob in my bean salad, which will be no bueno. No one's going to enjoy it. And, you know, I'll probably die alone, which would be terrible. Yeah, I got a little bit of the corn husk there at the back. And corn went everywhere. All right, in goes the corn. We have in here 2 different kinds of bell pepper. We've got some orange and some yellow and some red. We have a poblano pepper and 2 jalapeno peppers. Lots of peppers. We have half of a large Spanish red onion, 2 cobs or 2 ears of corn, still fresh. Sweet, 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 sweet. Beans. Now, while you could most certainly use dried beans, and normally speaking I would, but I didn't. Today, out of convenience. Beans come in containers that are 15.5 ounces, almost all of them. So if you wanted to use dried beans instead of canned beans, you would substitute 3/4 of a cup of dried beans. Then you would rehydrate them, and they'll come out to be about the same as 1 can. So 3/4 of a cup dried equals 1 standard can of beans. These are cannellinis. We're also going to put in some kidney beans and some black beans. When you are using canned beans, it's very, very important that you rinse them out thoroughly. The reason why, the can. And then you rinse the beans themselves before you add them to your recipe. The reason why is while they're sitting in water, the oligosaccharide that makes you go poop, that makes you toot a little bit after eating, it seeps out into the water. Which is why sometimes beans seem to be in very, very thick, gooey sort of a juice. That was originally water, fortified with a little bit of calcium chloride. to help the beans to retain their shape after cooking. They're also highly salted. So whenever you're using canned beans and replacing them for some dried beans, make sure you adjust your salt content, because a can of beans is going to have like 35 milligrams of salt, which is a lot. That's 15% of what you're supposed to eat in one day in one can. Be careful. To this, we have all of our ingredients together now. Look at that pretty combination, all those pretty colors. What I'm doing right now is I'm checking to see if there's anything that I didn't completely chop. I'm just going to break it apart. I don't want somebody to be eating in this and get like a giant mouthful of onion or a giant mouthful of pepper just because I didn't mince it well. But that's beautiful. Let's stick you over here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to mince up some cilantro. Cilantro is not the same as culantro. Culantro has a much more intense flavor. However, if you are shopping at a market and they have culantro and your recipe calls for cilantro, don't just substitute. Culantro is a lot stronger, has a much more intense flavor. People who don't like cilantro hate culantro because it is very intense. I, on the other hand, love it. So this recipe calls for 1/4 cup of finely minced cilantro. Now, like most cold bean salad recipes, this one has a dressing which is going to serve as a slow marinade, bring a whole lot of flavor to the party, and it needs to sit for at least 2 to 3 hours under refrigeration for the flavors to meld together and to form like that orchestra of amazingness. We got our chicken sitting in our brine. We got our bean salad ready to go. We have our rub for our chicken ready to go. All we got to do is wait for the brine to finish its action and then come back to this grill. And we're going to grill up some yummy chicken. All right? See you next time. Is you get the grill really hot first. Yeah. On one side. So we're going to close this and let it get hot up to about 450 degrees or so. Okay. Then we put in our chicken on the medium to cold side of the grill. We close the grill, turn it down to medium low. We're going to hold it there for probably about 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Then after it's sat for 20 minutes, then we crank the heat back up. We turn the chicken over one time, and then at that point, the chicken's going to start to get crispy. But we're holding it for 20 minutes at about 300, 350 degrees indirect heat, and that's going to allow all the collagen to dissolve so that it stays nice and juicy and tender. Cool? Cool. Excellent. Cooking it slow.
I'm now recording.
Oh, good. Because we're cooking it slow, it's going to start skin side up. If it was cooking fast, we would go skin side down. But this will give the skin time to get crispy. Oh, Jed. Look at those mosquitoes, Jesus. And that's it. Cool. So let's sit for about 25 minutes, just like this. About 15 minutes through, we're going to take the stuff that's closer to the heat, and then backwards, the stuff that's further from the heat, and move it forward. Cool. That's it. That's the only change that we do. Cool. Bam! So what we're doing is taking our stuff that is started cooking a little at the hotter side, and we're moving it back. That's all. It's all just a rotation. Okay. It's not nothing super fancy about it. See how the skin's starting to split? That's how you know they're finishing well. Because the water pressure of all that brine, the water pressure is pushing out the skin. If there wasn't all that additional water pressure, Alexa, stop! That wouldn't be happening. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall. So why didn't you call? So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all, but why didn't you